A coach who, whenever he loses 2 matches, asks for €1 billion and spends it on signings, then wins championships. Guardiola is a bubble. Without money, he cannot achieve titles. He can only succeed with big clubs. You've surely heard this talk before, but is Guardiola really just a coach who relies on money to achieve glory? In this video, we will dive deep into this debate and see how he built the team and led it to achieve the historic treble. We will uncover the truth behind his achievements. Was it solely money that drove his success, or is there something greater than that? Before we start, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell. Let's dive in. We begin with Guardiola's coaching period at Barcelona, where he led the golden generation and achieved a breakthrough in the world of football. Over 4 years, he spent approximately €342 million, averaging €85.5 million annually, and succeeded in winning 3 league titles, 2 cups, 3 domestic Super Cups, 2 Champions League titles, 2 European Super Cups, and 2 Club World Cups, totaling 14 titles. While Mourinho, in 3 years with Real Madrid, spent €187.5 million and didn't achieve a quarter of Guardiola's titles. The comparison here with Mourinho is not to diminish him, but it's a comparison we will need later. Before we conclude our talk about Barcelona, it is important to mention that Guardiola, despite spending, achieved great successes. In contrast, Barcelona's management later spent around €400 million on signings like Griezmann, Coutinho, and Dembélé, and did not achieve any notable success despite this massive spending. This illustrates that money alone is not enough to achieve accomplishments. As for Pep Guardiola's period with Bayern Munich, he spent approximately €206 million over 3 years, averaging €68.6 million annually. During this time, he succeeded in winning 3 league titles, 2 DFB Pokal Cups, 1 UEFA Super Cup, and 1 FIFA Club World Cup, in addition to reaching the Champions League semi-finals. In contrast, Bayern Munich spent around €187.5 million in the 2023 to 2024 season and did not win any titles. All of this was a prelude to the big upcoming shock, Manchester City, which led to Pep Guardiola being described as a coach who only focuses on spending and that the team buys championships. But things aren't that simple. When Guardiola started his journey with Manchester City, the average age of the players was 29 years, indicating that the team was in desperate need of renewal and development. This forced him to rebuild a new team, to the point where Manchester City now has 2 full squads, on and off the field, capable of competing with any team. You might say this is due to the large spending, but let's review the numbers. Since Guardiola's arrival, the club has spent €1.53 billion, with a net spend of €692.9 million. In comparison, Chelsea in the last 3 seasons spent €1.33 billion, with a net spend of €789.5 million, and achieved nothing. Manchester United, during Guardiola's tenure, spent €1.74 billion, with a net spend of €1.3 billion. The difference in the level of play, stability, and titles between City, Chelsea, and United is clear. And this shows that it's not just about spending, but about planning, management, and properly building a team. Simply put, Pep Guardiola spent large amounts at Manchester City to build a young team capable of competing in all competitions. His goal was to form a team with players capable of understanding his complex tactical demands and developing an integrated playing style that could endure for many years. Despite all Guardiola has achieved, he hasn't spent like some other teams that failed to achieve even a quarter of what he has accomplished. However, at the start of his journey with Manchester City, he faced significant challenges. His first season was not remarkable, as Pep wanted to build a team that reflected his vision, just as he had done in Barcelona. This required the exclusion and replacement of several key players, most notably Joe Hart, the trusted goalkeeper, who was not good with the ball. Although his actions during that period were not as clear as the signings he later made, such as John Stones, Leroy Sané, and Ilkay Gundogan, he still had strong elements in his squad, including Aguero up front, Sterling on the wing, and the brilliant De Bruyne in midfield. But that wasn't enough, as the team finished the season without any titles, which is rare for Pep. They finished the league in third place, behind Chelsea and Tottenham in second. They also collapsed against Monaco and were eliminated from the Champions League in the quarter-finals, which began a negative streak. After that season, it was easy to understand why many believed Pep was no longer at the top or that he couldn't handle the Premier League, even though the season wasn't entirely bad for many clubs that would have accepted it. Nevertheless, Pep took this underestimation seriously and returned the following season with a spirit of revenge. Manchester City won the Premier League title the following season with 100 points, which is still considered by many as the best season in Premier League history. But how did they transition from that first season to this unstoppable machine? Well, it should come as no surprise to anyone who watched Pep's work with Barcelona, where he made the team reflect his image and playing style, shedding the heavy burdens that existed at the club before him, like Touré, Zabaleta, Clichy, Mangala, and others. Instead, big names arrived for huge sums of money. It's no exaggeration to say he built the team from scratch, with players like Aymeric Laporte, Kyle Walker, Benjamin Mendy, Bernardo Silva, Gabriel Jesus, and goalkeeper Ederson. They won the league by a large margin of 19 points, giving Manchester United, who finished second, no chance. Pep also managed to defeat Arsenal 3-0 in the League Cup final, securing his first trophy with the club. This season can be considered the beginning of Pep's era of dominance in the Premier League. Once again, their series of exits in the Champions League quarter-finals continued, as they failed to achieve a good result in the first leg against Liverpool. Liverpool, their biggest rivals, decided to raise their level the following season, and together they engaged in the most thrilling title race since their last face-off in 2014. This season, they made only one signing, Riyad Mahrez, who nearly cost them the title after missing a penalty. They retained most of the squad from 2017 to 2018, and although they did not deliver the same individual performances as Liverpool's players, they managed to achieve a coordinated team effort, which allowed them to edge past the Reds by just 1 point. Not only that, but they also won the FA Cup and the League Cup, giving them a rare domestic treble. Unfortunately, they lost again in the Champions League quarter-finals for the third consecutive season under Pep, after a remarkable comeback by Tottenham. And here's a quick hint, this happened again the following season, as City lost the quarter-finals to Lyon, making it 4 consecutive years. The 2019 to 2020 season was a negative turning point, ending with them only winning the League Cup, making it 3 consecutive seasons in that competition, so at least there was some positive trajectory developing. However, Pep lost the FA Cup semi-final to his former student Mikel Arteta, who later won the tournament. Liverpool also had their historic moment by winning the league title, accumulating 99 points in a season. It was clear that many things needed to change, but the 4-0 win over Liverpool near the end of the season made it clear that the next season would be big. The previous season, Pep signed João Cancelo and Rodri, both of whom would later have a significant impact. But the signing that pushed them to win another title came in the summer of 2020, when they brought in Ruben Dias. The Portuguese defender made a huge impact on a defense that had been regressing, bringing leadership and a strong presence, along with his ball control skills and effectiveness in cutting off passes. He became a key pillar in defense, revived John Stones' form, and excelled alongside Aymeric Laporte, and even when playing with Nathan Ake, he always stood out. Beyond Dias, the team as a whole performed brilliantly. Despite not having a prominent top scorer, Gundogan took on the scoring duties and netted 13 league goals. The fact that they could win the league without a primary goal scorer reflects Pep's tactical brilliance and footballing philosophy. Additionally, they won the League Cup for the 4th consecutive time, making it clear that this competition had become their domain. Finally, they broke their Champions League quarter-final curse and reached the final, though they lost to Chelsea. Collecting 86 points in the league was a strong achievement, and it seemed they were capable of continuing their success. But after Aguero's departure, how did they perform in the following season? They narrowly managed to retain the league title in another competitive race with Liverpool until the final day. They were 2 goals down at home against Aston Villa, but in typical City fashion, they came back to win 3-2 and secure the Premier League title. With Aguero gone, the team had to experiment with the false 9 role, utilizing Raheem Sterling, Kevin De Bruyne, and Riyad Mahrez in this position. At this stage, it became clear that they needed to sign a true striker, as Gabriel Jesus Jesus was not delivering the required performance for the season. Once again, City had a strong run in the Champions League, reaching the semi-finals against the eventual champions, Real Madrid, where they lost 6-5 in a heartbreaking match. Their winning streak in the League Cup also ended after being eliminated in the fourth round. However, the way they won the title was reminiscent of Aguero's famous moment, as Gundogan scored 2 goals to turn around their deficit against Aston Villa. Despite all the drama, Pep knew he needed to fill the gap left by Aguero, and the following summer he did just that. Erling Haaland moved to Manchester City after 2.5 exceptional seasons at Borussia Dortmund, where he broke numerous records. Manchester City activated the release clause in his contract, and thanks to his long-standing connection to the club through his father, Alfie Haaland, Haaland joined City. He was also joined by striker Alvarez from River Plate, along with his former Dortmund teammate Manuel Akanji and Calvin Phillips. On the other hand, some prominent players left the team, such as Raheem Sterling, Gabriel Jesus, and Alexander Zinchenko. However, this was the season that led Manchester City to the pinnacle of Europe. Haaland shone exceptionally, delivering the best debut season in Premier League history, breaking numerous records. His season was worthy of the Ballon d'Or, scoring 36 goals in the league and 52 goals overall. Alvarez, De Bruyne, Foden and Mahrez all showed consistent performances throughout the season. The only failure of this season was not winning the League Cup for the second consecutive year. Nevertheless, their Champions League campaign was filled with determination and grit as they sought to prove their worth. They defeated Bayern Munich 3-0, and they crushed Real Madrid 4-0 as a form of revenge for the previous season. This journey was by no means easy for the citizens. Their mission was to prove the doubters wrong, and they succeeded. Pep didn't collapse, nor did they fail, but instead, they triumphed and claimed the title. This came after fierce competition with Arsenal, where they outpaced them just as they had done with Liverpool before. Additionally, they secured victory in the FA Cup final against their derby rivals. It wasn't all just due to Haaland's brilliance, but because of Pep, who proved his point and led the team. Pep Guardiola achieved what he had been striving for and proved the doubters wrong. And although we think he might leave soon, he wants to ensure Manchester City can thrive without him, just as he did with Bayern Munich and Barcelona. Regardless, this is how Pep transformed Manchester City into treble champions. He implemented a strong philosophy, brought in the players he needed, spent money wisely with proper planning, and the results were outstanding. He truly surpasses everyone.